background here. So my name is David Yang. I am artistic director of the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival, and I am talking for the second time, a short little interview with Scott Devereaux. Why don't you give us just a quick sum of who you are and what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. I've been, well, I'm a tuba player. I have been in the United States Army Field Band for just about 7 years. I joined in 2014. And before that, I was a freelancer in the Philadelphia area, and kind of have been on the East Coast
The
for.
orchestra, right? Philadelphia Orchestra, amongst others.
Yeah, I did my graduate work at the Curtis Institute, and then hung out there, and not at the institute, but hung out in the city and freelanced around. And yeah, I've appeared with the orchestra and a number of the other regional kind of organizations, and still have a lot of love for Philly. But yeah, in 2014, I won the job to join the field band and went off to basic training. And, now I'm a soldier in the Army who gets to serve with a tuba, which is a privilege.
And what is your rank?
I'm a sergeant first class. So
okay.
That's a E7, which is the pay grade, I guess, but that's the kind of the level that normalizes it across all branches. Yeah. So.
And is there chance of promotion eventually if you're in it long enough? I guess. Wait, that would be. Oh, I should know this. You're to a non-commissioned.
Yeah, I am a non-commissioned officer now. So when you enter the Army with a degree, like a bachelor's degree, you are automatically at the rank of a specialist, okay, which is E4. And then you can work your way up throughout your career to get the terminal rank for an enlisted individual is E9, which is a sergeant major in the Army. So that would take a whole career to get to that rank. But yeah, so you work your way up, and yeah, so there's a whole.
How do you work your way up? I mean, it's not through acts of valor, I wouldn't think, or maybe it is. That solo, you play the solo at the beginning of, was it Mahler 5 on trumpet?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely different than than a standard Army kind of promotion system, but it is based on the same system. So we still have, the Army has a review system. You get basically an evaluation every year, and those are written by your supervisors. And then those evaluations are sent to what's called a promotion board, and a bunch of high-ranking enlisted people and officers see a bunch of evaluation reports with names and faces kind of taken off, so there's no identifying information on there, and then they vote based on what your review looks like, whether or not
audition screen.
Yeah, it is. It's as
behind a screen, so they can't tell, male or female, race or
right.
Anything like that.
They used to have a picture that was included, but then it was taken off to kind of normalize any kind of basically trying to make it as anonymous as possible. Basically, just your actions in uniform speak for yourself, for your qualities. And basically the band field, there are a certain assigned number of ranks that are available. So when people retire or move out, vacate a certain rank, then it creates a space for someone to move up into it. And then those promotion boards, they say, okay, we have X number of staff sergeant slots or sergeant first class slots, and then they vote for people to move up into them based on your reviews. Yeah.
Is there so first of all, how large is the unit? And what's it called exactly?
Yeah, so our unit is called the United States Army Field Band is the name of the entire unit. But within that unit, we have a concert band, a chorus, a jazz big band, and a folk rock group, in addition to soldiers who are, our operations department, who plan and coordinate our tours. And then we have a small support department too, things that handle things like procurement of instruments and other kind of materials that we need to accomplish our job. So, I don't have an accurate number of how many people it is. It's probably around in the neighborhood of 200, but I bet it's under 200 if I had to guess. The band, the concert band itself is 65. So it's a small-ish group, very tight knit, and we travel together a ton. So you really end up living. I spend under a non-pandemic situation, I would spend about a third of the year on the road on touring, and so you live with your coworkers in hotels every day, traveling to a new hotel. So you get very acquainted with all of your all of your colleagues, which is good and bad.
I have to say 65 doesn't sound small to me as someone who's used to playing in quartets and trios and things.
I think compared to like the New York Phil or something like that, it would be, and also that's just the concert band. We also usually travel with a chorus, which is around 20 people. So all in, including like our bus drivers and audio people and all of those kind of people that come in the behind the scenes, we travel around with about 100 people. So
you have what, 2 buses, I guess?
3 buses and 2 semi trucks. Yeah.
Oh, to carry, of course.
Right.
Must be a pretty nice bus, I would think.
I mean, yes, I can't complain about it. I don't think I wouldn't describe us as traveling in luxury. Like it's taxpayer dollars, so there has to be some kind of responsible spending there. We're certainly not getting private jets or anything like that. But they also don't send us around in a school bus either. It's just what I would describe as reasonable. We stay at kind of baseline affordable hotel. We're not staying at the Ritz, and we're also not staying at, really kind of other places that you might not want to stay. But it is interesting when we roll into, we go to all kinds of places. We perform. It's actually one of the things I love about my job is that one night I might perform in, Severance Hall, and then the next night I might be in a small Ohio town performing where, the capacity of the previous night's amphitheater might be larger than the population of the town you're performing in the next night. And that's actually like something I really cherish about when we were able, and something I miss in 2020 is like, you just get to see every different kind of community that there is in this country. And you learn a lot from that, and you connect with all those people in different ways. So,
yeah. So you mentioned, it's an embarrassing question. You mentioned soldiers. So you would consider yourself a soldier, yes?
Yeah, I mean, you're
in the Army.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's how the Army thinks of us as soldiers, and we enlist and take the the oath of enlistment like anybody else who joins the armed forces, and we go through basic training. We spend weeks at the range and learn to shoot the assault rifles and all of those things that any soldier does. That's a baseline for anybody who joins the armed services. You kind of have to go through that. So yes, our mission is music, but so it's different, but it's, at a baseline, we still have an understanding of what that means and to be a soldier. And also, we consider ourselves a part of that. And that's helpful when we go, because really our job is to go into a community and represent, so that community can feel connected to the military. Because, the military is really acting on behalf of the people. That's how it works in a democracy. So we, our kind of mission is to go and connect with them as a representative of that institution. So yeah, it's important that we have a kind of that we feel a part of the story as like, the Army, who we are, and we feel like a part of that family, but also that we understand what it means so that we can truthfully represent that in a community.
Is there any possibility? I mean, I suppose that if push came to shove, you could be sent into combat, say Canada invades, right? And the nearest unit is you guys giving a concert in Buffalo. And they're like, wait, what do we have? We don't have any, and the nearest unit is 100 miles away. I was like, wait, we got the Army band is right there.
Well, I think, hypothetically, anybody who joins any armed service could be sent into combat. Like that's in your contracts, and you certainly take an oath that kind of legally obligates you to do what you're told, whatever it is that you're told to do, as long as that's legal, it's legal, but I think that just looking at it strategically, if you were in command of, the armed forces and there was some kind of incident, that there are other soldiers and, other branches too, whether it's the Marine, the Navy, the Air Force, Coast Guard, all of those different, they all kind of have different roles, and included the National Guard in the States. You would probably allocate those assets a little bit differently than sending the band in, but I suppose it's possible, but I would think highly unlikely. But
how do other soldiers? I wonder. I mean, so you're a sergeant, which is already getting up there. I would think. I mean, how do other soldiers who are not musicians? How do they react to you, or is this not? And how do you? What relationship do you feel towards other soldiers? I mean, I imagine there's a, there is a camaraderie, right, amongst within the armed forces.
Sure. Yeah, I would say, I have an immense respect for anybody who signs up to put their life on the line and, to take that oath and join the armed forces under any circumstances, whether it's music or otherwise. And I hold special respect for those who sign up to do it in sometimes incredibly risky scenarios. And I think that the cultures that exist between, soldiers who are doing things that are more focused on combat, as opposed to some, our job is very public facing and a part of the public affairs office. There are those are different cultures, and and of course they're the same in some ways, but they're also different in other ways. And anytime you have two different cultures that are kind of interacting with each other, there are going to be differences in perception between them. But ultimately, I've always had a lot of, I've always found it to be really fulfilling to be in a situation maybe where those cultures clashing a little bit, and then to, whenever you actually talk to those people and they see the kind of expertise that we bring to music making and the expertise that they bring to their job, whatever it may be, whether it's technical or some other support MOS, or if it's a combat arms MOS, they all bring that professional. Oh, sorry. MOS stands for Military Occupation Specialty. So that's basically military term for what your job is. It's your job title, and they're assigned numbers in the military or in the Army. So whatever your specialty is, you kind of bring that professionalism and an expertise to it, and that's what we can relate to. And we all ultimately, I've never had a situation where we can't find some kind of shared respect in that. And it's good, because that informs what I do when I go out into the communities, because really my job is to represent those people who are deployed overseas and who can't be home with their families. It's like we're going out there to establish that connection and make those people feel like they understand who we are as an organization. So
I don't know, I might have told you last time, my father had been a cellist in the 7th Army Symphony in Germany. He was there between Korea and Vietnam. And
okay.
I can't remember his exact rank, but it was also specialist something. And my grandfather on the other side, on my mom's side, was kind of like what you're talking about. He was a mechanic, but this is during World War II. But he worked on planes here in the States, and he kept on my mom kept on getting moved around, but never saw combat. But it was incredibly important, essential job. This was in the Army Air Force, or Army Air Corps, I think it was called at the time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody the whole army is constant. Well, I mean, all of the armed forces are kind of constantly scrutinized for whether there's wasteful jobs that are out there, or areas where they could be cut, or not cut, but where areas where people. There are no jobs that are wasteful in the in the army so much, because we all kind of have this critical role. We're all kind of there to serve uh, as a team, to kind of come together and create this kind of um, incredibly powerful organization to you know do what we do. So
Well, in terms of what you do, let me ask you about that. So we
yeah.
just had this presidential inauguration a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and you did not play at that one, but you played at previous inaugurations. Is that correct?
Yeah, I played at the inauguration in 2016, but this year, given that the situation, they decided to cancel the parade portion of the inauguration. So there were still certain parts of it, but then those performances, kind of a lot of the celebratory aspects that weren't so ceremonial, were moved to a digital space. So our, the military music world all kind of does come together for that inaugural ceremony, usually every 4 years. And each branch and each band, the premier band from each branch, has a kind of special role in whether it's in the parade or in the presidential escort. There's bands, for example, once the new president is sworn in, there's a escort that goes from the Capitol to the White House. And that escort, in normal circumstances, would include bands like the President's Own, like Pershing's Own, which is our, kind of fellow Army premier band at Fort Myer, and other groups like the Fife and Drum Corps, which is a part of the Old Guard. And our unit is usually, in a normal year, would be the lead unit in the parade. So once the president goes from the Capitol to the White House, then there's a parade that passes by the White House, and the new president comes out and watches as everybody goes by. And so our unit is usually the first thing in that parade is the field band. But obviously this year, without a parade, we weren't able to participate, which I think is the safe call.
So what's it like playing at a presidential inauguration? I mean, wow, it's huge, right? I would think, or maybe it's just, maybe it's just another concert, actually.
I mean, it's certainly something I remember very vividly. It's it's one of those things that you feel kind of the weight of it while you're there. Sometimes you can be at a concert or any kind of happening and just kind of feel that what you're a part of is something bigger than bigger than any one given part of it. So yes, I'm a tuba player in one rank of one file of a parade that's happening, but really it's about this peaceful transfer of power, and that's something that's much bigger than any one individual. So you do kind of, you feel the weight of that while you're there. It is interesting though, because you because of all the security and things like that, oftentimes I can remember in 2016, our report time was, well before the sun came up. And we didn't get back to Fort Meade until well after the sun went down. And during that time, it's a lot of waiting around, going through security checkpoints, or doing this or that, staging this here and there. So actually, while a lot of the things are happening, like the actual swearing in and those things, you're kind of in this procedural behind the scenes where you're like in staging area 1, and then they move you to staging area 2, or what, to get everything coordinated. You can imagine how many moving parts there would be in kind of coordinating all these bands, because also there are civilian bands that march in the inaugural parade too. So it's not just military. It's kind of, there are people from, it's really a kind of, can be a celebration of a lot of different corners of the country come together for this parade, and the logistics of that are complicated. And so oftentimes it's a lot of, okay, go stand over here for a while, okay, now we're going to move you guys to stand over here, and now this and now that. And by the time you get to actually march the parade, the parade itself is not terribly long. It's a couple miles, I think. And then you get back on the bus and they take us back to Fort Meade. So, but it is, I mean, you do feel the weight of it. So it's a weird dichotomy of like hurry up and wait, but also you kind of feel like you're part of something when you're there.
How does it? All right. So what? January 20th, right? Is that when inaugurations
Hmm.
occur?
Yep.
So you're standing around for hours in the cold. You're wearing your dress uniform,
Hmm.
which I mean, you're not wearing you don't have a big down coat on. You don't have Bernie Sanders mittens on. Um, I guess a couple of questions, just practically speaking, how do you stay warm, and how do you stay warm and play, and yeah, how do you prevent your mouth from being frozen to the mouthpiece, right?
Yeah.
Because right, what's the Charlie Brown cartoon, right? He sticks his tongue to a pole. I think it's Charlie Brown, and he's like stuck all night or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting tricks to the trade. So yeah, we wear usually when we perform, even out in, on tour, we wear our high collar dress jackets, which is called the distinctive uniform. And so that's what we wear at the inaugural. And over that, if it's cold, we are authorized to wear basically a trench coat, which is it's not, it breaks the wind and things like that, which is actually incredibly helpful. It's not like a down jacket or anything like that, but it helps. And then yeah, we have white ceremonial gloves. So they're not like, they're kind of designed to be white, and so they show movement. It's kind of about the ceremonial aspect of it all. But yeah, they don't offer a tremendous amount of warmth. And if you were to categorize all of the suffering that happens in it's out low on the totem pole in terms of what people in the armed services go through. So I certainly am not going to complain about it.
At the Battle of the Bulge here.
Yeah, but you're in the military, and they kind of say, you know, deal with it. So yeah, you are standing out in the cold, and there are
Are you
kind of,
allowed to wear long underwear underneath?
yeah, I mean, you can wear you can wear stuff that kind of keeps you at least it and actually in 2016, which is the only one I've marched in, it was fairly mild. So it wasn't really, DC in January, it could really just like anything is possible. It could be really, really cold. It could also be, I think it was maybe in the 40s when we did it. So it really wasn't that cold. So it wasn't really a problem at all. And then as far as like the playing part of it, uh, there are all kinds of different strategies that you can use. Sometimes brass players will put, you can get those hand warmers that they sell for,
Like chemical
skiing and things like
break-in or
that.
something.
Yeah, and sometimes you can, if you zip tie one of those to your valves, it will keep, because that's what happens in a brass instrument is the water, your condensation from
Oh,
your breath will actually like seize the instrument,
of
and if
course.
it freezes, your valves will stop working.
Wow.
So there's that. We also have plastic mouthpieces, usually as a cold weather staple.
Huh.
Yeah, we get, plastic mouthpieces, which prevents, your spit from sticking to your, creating the flagpole situation like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And then one thing I never realized before I joined that is pretty standard is we have what's called a freeze march, which is a march that's written based on the open partials of all the brass instruments. So all the brass instruments are in B flat, and they just kind of assume that, okay, this is the music that we're going to play if nobody's instrument works, because it doesn't require you to press any valves.
Ah,
So yeah, it becomes this kind of placeholder for if it gets real cold and people's instruments stop working, this is the emergency thing that we're going to do so that we're still doing something. So that's kind of, yeah, the behind the scenes secret stuff. We have the marches that we play if everything goes well, and then there's the freeze march, which is, are kind of in our back pocket. So
sure, sure. So let me ask you this. This is a general question and an abstract question, kind of. Well, maybe it's not abstract, but um, why is music important at at an inaugural or at these events? You know, what role do you feel that it plays actually?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things, and most kind of apparently to me, anyways, is that, artists, musicians, and any artists really, I think that we're dot connectors in a lot of ways. That, sometimes whether it's military pomp and circumstance, or it's politics, or whatever it may be, the government can, all of these things can feel kind of distant, and sometimes it's difficult as a person to connect to them emotionally. And
Hmm.
art is like the connective tissue, right? I mean, so it's hard to get excited about you know, maybe a ceremony, but it's not hard to get excited when you hear a patriotic march, right? I mean, they're written to be inspiring and to kind of elicit kind of a feeling of pride, of national pride. And so that, I think that that's really what we're there for, is that we heighten the kind of, we connect the emotional dots for people. And I think if you need a demonstration of that, try and watch a movie without a without a film soundtrack to it, and see if you have trouble connecting to what the characters and what's going on. I guarantee you will, because there's no soundtrack there. And whether you realize it or not, that's the emotional connective tissue. That's the art connecting the dots before you. Um, and then the other thing is that, military music is as old as this country is, older actually. I mean, obviously it goes back in the history of mankind into the earliest kind of military histories of signaling and things like that. But American military music is, was in the Revolutionary War, and it's been uninterrupted in all of military service until the present day. So, we're a part of that story of what this kind of, what the military is. And I think that the reason that our field has endured is that we are that connective tissue. We're a means of understanding, we're a means of connection, and we're kind of a means of inspiring emotional connection with one's country. And that is something that is really important to maintain, for, that people, that citizens of a country trust in their military to, do the right thing, and to, and that's like what military music is about, in addition to all of the things like ceremonial functions, and things that are very, antiquated, like battlefield signaling. All of these things are, they're baked into our history, and we carry them forward and kind of keep that storyline going.
I was surprised at this last inauguration. It was the first inauguration I'd ever actually watched from beginning to end, and just the role music had in, like you're saying, connective tissue in some ways. Just the different rhythms of things. So there'd be someone would be talking, or they'd be introducing someone who would then, take an oath, this kind of thing. And then there were some speeches, and then there was, of course, the music. There was Lady Gaga and J Lo and stuff like that. But then also in between, when just they're carrying some flags from here to there, and there'd be music, and the just the diversity of what was actually going on, because it would have been unbearable, right? If it just been, here's so and so swear, here's so and so, just with no music at all. In fact, like you're saying, it would have just been, it just would have been pulling teeth. But as it was, I was very moved by the whole what do you call it? Whole the pomp and circumstance, I guess.
Sure, yeah. I think sometimes like the music in that kind of setting can be, sometimes music is the picture itself. If you're going to an art museum and you see this amazing painting, sometimes when you go to see an orchestra, or you come to one of our concerts out, and it's just like we're the thing, right? We're the painting. But in the situation like the inaugural, music can be a really well chosen frame, we kind of provide this context that within, because the music is not like what people are there to see. But and I think we saw this in this inaugural with some of the performances, especially the poetry by Amanda Gorman, who, these kinds of it's the art that kind of contextualizes these things for people, and it is like the frame around the painting, right? And it gives us kind of this means. Sometimes you don't notice the frame of a perfect painting, but sometimes it's just right, and it gives you this perfect context with which to view whatever it is you're there to view. Which in this case, the important thing is that we're having a peaceful transfer of power. We're swearing in a new president, and that's what people are there to see. But then the art is there to contextualize it and to connect to people more like viscerally.
It's interesting. So I have actually have a personal connection to military bands of sorts, which is just the first. I'm dating myself here. The first LP I ever had, the first record, was it was called The Military Band, and I just memorized this. It's all Sousa marches and this and that, and whenever I'm by myself or have a long walk, all these bands start coming into my head, and due to the wonder of the ether web, right? I was like, oh, I wonder if I could track that down, because I have a distinct memory of what the record jacket looked like. So I Googled it, and sure enough, there it's there. It's sold on eBay for $12.76 or something, and it's just recording with Felix Slatkin conducting, actually.
Wow.
And I checked in iTunes and I downloaded it, and now I'm cooking to to Anchors Away, or from the Halls of Montezuma or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
These marches, I think they're probably not all by Sousa, right? But they're it's such great music. It's such great music.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's maybe, I don't know if looked down upon is the right word, but people don't always appreciate it as, on the same level as something like Beethoven or, whatever. But it's impossible to be in a concert of military music and not feel something about it, right? I mean, when you hear Stars and Stripes Forever, like you clap, like it just kind of happens. Like it elicits that response. And there's a lot of energy in that. There's a lot of kind of and there's a lot of storytelling in these marches too. The two marches that you mentioned, Anchors Away, and which is the Navy song, and the Halls of Montezuma, that's the Song of the Marines. So those are all, these marches tell the story of these branches and their greatest moments and kind of their triumphs and things like that. So there's history there too. There's storytelling, just like opera or something like that. It's all kind of the same thing. And yeah, there's good melodies there. There's good, maybe sometimes they're formulaic, yes, but like there's good stuff there. It's if you actually listen to it, yeah.
So I guess so I'll listen to a Sibelius symphony and my chest will expand, right? Or you listen to a Beethoven quartet and you'll be transported a certain place. There's some aspect, I have to say, of some of these, I mean, just like you're saying, of some of these marches that, I mean, for lack of a better word, right, stir up a feeling of patriotism, and it's an interesting emotion because it's different. Again, I'm thinking of Sibelius, and you get a sense, like the end of the Fifth Symphony, and a feeling of awe, right? There's no other music in me that pulls up that feeling in particular. You stand up just a little straighter, right? And I don't know. It's hard to define. What is that? And then some people, of course, have mixed emotions over some of these pieces too, which is understandable also. But how would you define that feeling when you're playing, when you're playing a particularly stirring march? What's happening exactly in you as a musician?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I could really put my finger on it. One thing. I mean, I think it carries, like you said, it kind of follows this thread of any different really kind of music, whether you're listening to, like you said, Sibelius or Sousa or anybody, folk music or opera, or we're really kind of eliciting a mood and a feeling. And and even within the genre of marches, there are patriotic marches, there are circus marches, there are, you can go and look at old kind of British style marches, which are like a whole other thing. It's like, and they all kind of have this different feeling and weight um, and story behind them, and there's a history, just like a Beethoven quartet or anything like that. And they're really evoking a mood. They're taking you to that place, as you said, just in their own way. I guess I've never like kind of stopped and thought like what it is exactly that I feel during them. I think that you know um, it can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different contexts. And I can say for sure that when we play the Armed Forces Salute on Veterans Day, it feels different than when we play it on any other day, right? So when we take the time to play the music that kind of ties us to this moment and we're here all in a concert hall, could be thousands of people kind of together experiencing this shared thing that connects to the date that we're celebrating and all of these people and the sacrifice they made. That's as powerful as it gets. And it's all marches. It's not it's, I think sometimes
Or something.
right, but I will stack up the emotional response to that experience against any that you can experience in music.
Sure.
And yeah, I guess I'm not sure like what that essence is, but I think maybe that's what's beautiful about music, is that you don't have to name it. Like it's
Sure.
it's in itself unnameable, and that's why it's music, right? Because we couldn't describe it with words.
Right.
Otherwise it would be literature or something else, so yeah, so I think I don't know how to answer your question specifically, but I kind of like that I can't.
Well, do you have a favorite march yourself? If you had to choose just one, what's your desert island march?
That's interesting. Well, this might sound predictable, but I actually think that Stars and Stripes Forever is one of, I mean, it's a reason that we play it at the end of every one of our concerts ever. So I've played it thousands of times now. And there's still something every time that gets it. It's a very unique march. There's kind of compositionally, Sousa does a lot of things in it that you don't find in any other marches. And it still follows the same structure, but it's super popular for a reason. So I will say that even at the end of a 40-day tour, after I've played the thing on 40 consecutive nights, there's still musical magic happening on day 40. So that's something. If you can get through a thing on 40 times in a row and still feel something during it, that speaks to the quality of the thing. So
sure.
there are all kinds of different marches that I like. Sometimes it's like, connoisseurs of a thing start to just appreciate it because it's unique, like something that if march convention, you might really start to appreciate a march that just breaks all the conventions. Even if it's not like, actually good, you're just like, wow, this is so unique and not what I expected it to be. And that kind of takes on some kind of value. So there are other, less well-known marches that I value for those things. I really like circus marches because they're fun to play.
Well, wait, what's a march that breaks all conventions, but that is actually good? And how does it break conventions?
I mean, trying to think of one off the top of my head. I mean, I think National Emblem is kind of a good march that is, it's really popular. So I don't know if you could say it's totally like outside of convention, but it takes clips, it takes bits and pieces of the national anthem, and it kind of, the texture of the instrumentation changes at really interesting moments, which I find to be interesting. And even though it kind of follows all these march forms with strains and the way the trio, you add a flat, it follows all these kind of conventions, but it kind of is unpredictable in certain ways.
You call it
And there's all,
national emblem.
yeah,
Is
national
that,
emblem.
is that
I
by?
guarantee you've heard it before. Oh, geez, I'm blanking right now on who wrote that. I should know, but I'm just drawing a blank. It's not Sousa. Um, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I mean, circus marches are fun because they're, as a tuba player, you don't always get crazy amounts of notes. But if you're playing, the Circus B or Melody Shop, these are, even the tuba part has, a million notes a minute in one of those. And
These are names of circus marches. Circus B.
yeah, the Circus B and the Melody Shop are two really well-known K.L. King circus marches, and they're fun, especially when you play in a really high quality band, and we can go a million miles an hour and you really kind of capture the circus element, the kind of frenzied energy that comes in that. It's fun.
That's great. Well, Scott, it's been wonderful to talk with you again, and we'll be playing together this summer in August.
Yeah.
We'll be doing that quintet by Erica Wazen for tuba and string quartet.
I can't wait to. Yeah, I can't wait.
You'll be doing some solo works. You'll be doing the Penderecki and maybe some other things. The program's going to be a little altered this summer, obviously due to COVID. We're going to be doing all our concerts outdoors, and I'll be writing a post on this later for people. But the festival is on for this summer. People, with a little luck, most people will have been vaccinated at that point, but we're not making any assumptions, actually.
Sure, right.
Yeah, that's great. Can't wait to play with you. So
yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Scott. See you later.
Awesome. See ya.
Okay, bye.